In the closing years of the Second World War, Germany stood at the edge of total collapse. What had once been a nation mobilized for conquest was now a landscape of ruins, hunger, and fear. The man at the center of this destruction, Adolf Hitler, had risen from political obscurity to absolute power. He promised national rebirth. He delivered catastrophe. This is the story of how that power unraveled, not in a single moment, but through a slow, undeniable collapse, military, political, and moral. This is not the story of a battlefield victory. It is the story of an ideology imploding under the weight of its own lies. To understand Hitler's end, one must first understand the illusion that sustained him. In the 1930s, Germany was a wounded nation, defeated in the First World War, crushed by economic collapse, humiliated by the Treaty of Versailles. Hitler exploited that pain with ruthless precision. He offered simple answers to complex problems, enemies to blame, glory to reclaim. By 1939, Germany was once again at war, this time by choice. And at first, it seemed unstoppable. Poland fell in weeks. France collapsed in months. Much of Europe lay under Nazi control. But beneath the spectacle of victory, the foundations were already cracking. Hitler centralized all decision-making around himself. Military professionals were sidelined. Reality was replaced by loyalty. Truth became optional. The German war machine functioned not because of Hitler, but despite him. The first major fracture came in the East. In 1941, Hitler launched Operation Barbarossa, the invasion of the Soviet Union. It was the largest military assault in human history. He believed the campaign would be quick. He believed ideology would triumph over geography. He was wrong. The Russian winter arrived. Supply lines collapsed. German forces froze, starved, and bled. By early 1943, the defeat at Stalingrad marked a psychological turning point. An entire German army was destroyed. The myth of invincibility was shattered. From that moment on, Germany fought a defensive war it could not win. In the West, Allied bombing campaigns intensified. German cities were reduced to ash. Factories vanished. Civilians died by the tens of thousands. On June 6, 1944, D-Day, Allied forces landed in Normandy. A second front opened. The clock began to run out. As the military situation deteriorated, Hitler retreated, physically and mentally. He withdrew from public view. He rejected bad news. He punished honesty. Inside his headquarters, maps replaced reality. Imaginary divisions were moved across shrinking fronts. Orders were issued to units that no longer existed. Generals who questioned him were dismissed or ignored. Those who remained learned to tell him what he wanted to hear. Germany was no longer being governed, it was being commanded by fantasy. Meanwhile, resistance within Germany grew desperate. In July 1944, a group of officers attempted to assassinate Hitler. The bomb failed. The consequences did not. Thousands were arrested, executed, silenced. Any remaining internal opposition was crushed. By early 1945, the war was effectively over, though no one dared say it aloud in Berlin. The Red Army surged westward, liberating concentration camps and exposing the full scale of Nazi crimes. Mass graves, starvation, industrialized murder. In the West, Allied forces crossed the Rhine. German resistance crumbled. Fuel was gone. Aircraft were grounded. Teenagers and elderly men were sent to fight tanks with rifles. Hitler ordered cities destroyed rather than surrendered. If Germany could not win, he believed, it did not deserve to survive. This was not leadership. It was vengeance. As Soviet forces entered Berlin, Hitler descended into the Führer bunker beneath the ruins of the capital. Above ground, the city burned. Artillery shook the streets. Civilians fled or hid. Below ground, time slowed. The bunker became a sealed world of dim lights, stale air, and denial. Those inside spoke in whispers. Loyalists clung to routine. Maps were still updated. But there was no escape. The Nazi leadership fractured. Some attempted negotiations. Others fled the city. A few remained, bound by loyalty or fear. Hitler, now physically frail and mentally isolated, continued issuing orders until the very end. None of them mattered. On April 30th, 1945, as Soviet troops closed within hundreds of meters, Adolf Hitler died in the bunker. There were no speeches, no witnesses from the nation he ruled, no final stand. His body was burned, his empire dissolved. 2 days later, Berlin surrendered. Within a week, Germany capitulated unconditionally. The war in Europe was over. But the fall of Hitler did not bring immediate peace. Germany lay in ruins. Millions were displaced. Cities were piles of rubble. The concentration camps revealed horrors beyond comprehension. The scale of the Holocaust forced the world to confront the consequences of unchecked ideology. Nazi leaders were hunted down. Trials were held at Nuremberg. For the first time, the world attempted to define crimes against humanity. Europe was divided. East and West hardened into opposing blocs. The Cold War began in the shadow of Hitler's defeat. The shock waves extended far beyond Germany. The fall of Adolf Hitler reshaped the modern world. It redefined international law. It transformed warfare. It exposed how fragile democratic systems can be under pressure. It proved that propaganda can overpower reason, that fear can silence institutions, that nations can follow destruction willingly if convinced it is salvation. The end of Hitler was not the end of extremism. It was a warning, one written in ruins and paid for in millions of lives. History remembers dictators not for how they rise, but for what they leave behind. This was the collapse of absolute power, the failure of an ideology built on lies, and a lesson the world continues to struggle to remember. This is Aftershock, where history doesn't end, it reverberates.